everybody, Barry Johns here. Welcome back to yet another edition of Studio Talk. Today I'm going to talk about your local hometown music store. Will they return? Will they go back to the glory days that they were in the past? Well, before we get started, if you don't mind, if you like my content and you watch some of my videos, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe button, notification bell that's here, there, somewhere up on the screen. I don't know where I'm going to put it, but if you could do that, I'd really appreciate it. It'd really help me grow the channel. Now, off to the business at hand. Okay. So one of the reasons, there are really two primary reasons, at least I think, and this is just me sharing my opinion. I could be dead wrong on this. But two primary reasons I think we saw the decline of your local hometown music store really thriving and being able to keep a decent stock of inventory and sell the varying degrees of quality, either instruments or gear or whatever it may be that you're in search for. And I think the first one by far is, I think, the big box places like Guitar Center originally came in and did a ton of damage because, they had buying power and they could negotiate better prices than your local music store could with the manufacturers. And then, of course, over time, I've done a video about Guitar Center and its ultimate decline and ultimate fail. But then, of course, you had the rising ranks of your online stores, whether that was Sweetwater, Music 123, Musician's Friend, Z Sounds, and so many others out there that popped up that gave you the variety of everything you were looking for, and then it made it pretty easy to buy your products online and have them shipped to you at your house. As long as you were patient, you knew you were going to get a piece of gear that no one else had touched. And especially if you're buying an instrument, that can be important to a lot of folks, and I understand that. The second, I think one of the big reasons, and I know it certainly was always a big reason for me, even if I could find an item locally, and I wouldn't do this with just musical instruments, I'd do it with anything, whether it's a TV or whatever it may be. I'm going to do my homework because typically I can find it less or expensive online. And when you in the past, when you bought it online, you didn't pay sales tax for the vast majority. Well, those days are gone for the majority of states out there, at least here in America. So ultimately, you don't really save any money anymore by buying online. And for me, that was probably the biggest number one reason why I always chose to, because if I'm buying, an expensive piece of gear, maybe it's over a couple $1,000s, that adds up to be quite a bit of savings that, when you don't have to pay tax on it, but now I've got to pay tax on it. So if I had a local music store that stocked what I was looking for, I would rather go to that local music store and buy it. So you still have the challenges that still exist today between your big boxes and your local music store. Yes, granted, you're not, the big boxes, and when I say big boxes, I don't mean the physical stores, I mean the big online retailers. They're still going to have that massive buying power because they're buying in volume from the manufacturers. And so your local hometown music store is still going to compete with that somewhat. So I think if there is any chance whatsoever for us to see a resurgence of, your local hometown music store, I think it's going to be in the fairly near future if it happens. Now, it may not happen at all, but if it happens, that's when it'll happen. One of the things that your local music store can do today that they didn't used to be able to do, and that's with this great little tool out there called Reverb. And so now a local music store can branch out and sell more volume than they ordinarily would because now they have the ability to sell on Reverb. And oftentimes your big online retailers' hands are somewhat tied with how flexible they can be in their pricing. Your local music store, whether you go buy it locally in your hometown or whether you buy from another hometown's music store on Reverb, they're going to have the flexibility to negotiate those prices a lot more than the others will. And so, because they don't have that their hands tied by the relationship with the manufacturers to the degree that the online retailers have, the traditional online stores. And so maybe there's a possibility we'll see that return. I sure hope so. I live in Central Florida here in Orlando, and as far as music stores go, we've got 2 Guitar Centers, and why in the world would anybody in their right mind go in one of those things? I'm not going to unless I have no choice whatsoever. But I do have a local vintage store that's like 20 minutes from my house, Jimmy's Vintage Music in Auburndale, Florida. Check it out. Look it out. Look him up. If you're in Central Florida, you're coming to Disney on vacation and you want to go check out a cool store, it's a little bit of drive from Disney, but it's worth the drive. He's had Joe Bonamassa and some other big name people stop by his store. And I've got several instruments here in my studio that I bought at Jimmy's. And so again, that's Jimmy's Vintage Guitar in Auburndale, Florida. I encourage you to check that out. So, he's one of the guys that primarily, he doesn't really deal in any new stuff. It's all used or vintage. And he has quite a selection of vintage instruments. As well as just, the stuff that most of us are going to play on a daily basis. He's got the gamut covered there. So he's a great store out there. But other than that, we really don't have anything else here in Orlando. We've got a few decent guitar stores over in Tampa, but that's a little bit of a hike. Outside of that, you pretty much got to go to Miami or to Atlanta. That's really about as close as you're going to get. So, I'm hoping to see a return or resurgence. I'd like to see more guitar stores like Jimmy's Vintage Music here in Auburndale, really become successful. A lot of these stores out there can also develop an online identity and be able to expand their sales as well. A prime example of that is what I'll call my hometown guitar store where I grew up. I grew up just south of Lexington, Kentucky, and I spent so much of my time in Wilcut Guitars growing up. It was the first place I ever saw a Mesa Boogie Mark IV. It was all decked out in the wood shell and the wicker grill and everything like that. Back then, you had to go to a specialty store to buy Mesa Boogie. You couldn't just buy it anywhere back then. And I'll do another video on Mesa Boogie at some point because it's going to be interesting to see if they can survive and keep their identity because they were bought out by Gibson. But anyway, let's stay focused on this. But yeah, Bob Wilcutt always treated all of us right. You got a chance to see a lot of guitars and a lot of amplifiers that you wouldn't see anywhere else. It's an itty bitty little store. You'd never know it, that it's away. And it's actually, the store's on the bottom part. And Bob actually lived up on the second story of that house. So the store's on the bottom and his house was on top. And so he hasn't lived there in a while, I don't think, but he turned out to be a massive online seller of guitars and various instruments. I think for the longest time, he was the #1 PRS dealer in the world. And that was all out of that itty bitty store out of Lexington, Kentucky. Who would have thought it? But he's still doing very well. So let's hope that some of these local music stores, if they do pop back up, let's hope they can be more successful. Let's hope this whole situation with internet sales tax being back in play, that's a good thing for the local mom and pop, so we can support local people and help them make a profit versus some of these big bucks online retailers. Because the more and more they get bought out and get invested in by these capital investment companies. We saw what happened to Guitar Center with Bain Capital, destroyed that retailer, and hopefully that won't happen to Sweetwater. But there's a lot of really good stores out there that are not what I'll call the big online retailers. You've got SoundPure. I really love working with those people. They've got the try before you buy. So you get a chance, they ship it to you. They just put a hold on your credit card. You get to try it out in your house. If you don't like it and you don't want to keep it, you ship it back. It's no big deal. Yes, you have to pay for the shipping return back, but it's a lot more ethical than going out and buying something from an online retailer, knowing that you may not even keep it. And you just want to try it out and then you return it. They're only going to let you do that so many times, by the way. And that's really not an ethical way of doing things. You should really do your homework first. But, Alto Music out of New York, I always love dealing with John Haber, buying music gear. I don't think he's with them anymore. I think he went over to Line 6 or some other company like that. And he's probably still affiliated with Alto Music. But anyway, that's another great store. It's always going to deal on their prices. Always, always, always. You can get a discount with those guys. You just got to call them up and talk to them. So let's keep our hopes up for the online, not the online, but the local music store to come back to your hometown, my hometown, or wherever you call your hometown today. And let's hope that returns, because I'd personally love to see that. I'd rather be able to go to a local shop, look around, see what's going on, and just explore and see what they've got and buy my gear locally. So if you happen to have one of those music stores locally, I encourage you, please use those before some of these others. even if they have a big online presence, they're still a local music store. So I'd like to see you support those. So put some comments down below. Tell us about your music stores or lack thereof. If you've got a great music store that you love going to that's in your hometown, tell us about it. Tell us why you like going to it. What is it about that particular store that you like? You know, if you don't have anything and you have no choice but to buy online, who do you buy from? Do you even consider that, or do you just do the thing that's the most easiest? So I'm curious to see what you guys have to think about this. So if you like if you like this video, if you like the content or the other videos that I do, if you haven't got a chance to check some of them out, I encourage you to go out there and do so. But please hit that like, subscribe, notification bell. Helps me grow the channel. We started off this way and let's end this way. It really helps me out. Appreciate it. You know, over 90% of the people watch my videos are not subscribers. And so, hey, if you like the content and you actually watch it, can't hurt to subscribe. And it really just helps me go and get out there with the algorithm and everything. And so more people see it. So I'm deeply humbled by the you know, how well I've been welcomed on YouTube so far in such a short period of time. I'm really kind of taken back by it. But at the same time, I want you to know I take this stuff serious, and I'm always going to try and do some content that I think can bring value to at least some of you. I know I can't do it to everybody, but I'll at least try to get some of you. So until next time, I hope all of you have an absolutely wonderful day.